Today we will discuss topics such as Chapter 66, Verse 2, Ashtak Varga Siddhanta, etc. of Parashara Horashastra. To really understand why this incredibly intricate mathematical system even exists in the first place, we've got to look at the specific, foundational problem that was presented to the sage.
You see, in Chapter 66, Verse 2, a student named Maitreya comes to Sage Parashara with a very real problem. He essentially points out that in the Kali Yuga, which is the current age we're living in, human minds have become blunt due to sinful deeds. Basically, we lack the profound cognitive synthesis and intuition of the ancient seers. The contradictory effects of planetary movements are just way too complex for the modern mind to properly interpret. Because of this, Maitreya pleads for a simpler, definitive, and highly practical method to figure out a person's happiness, sorrow, and ultimate longevity. Right here in the original Sanskrit text of Chapter 66, Sage Parashara actually agrees with Maitreya. Recognizing the severe limitations we're working with, he introduces a highly accurate, mathematical, and visually structured method. This isn't about vague intuition anymore. This is about hard, calculable data. He promises a system that completely bypasses the need for complex, abstract reasoning by providing a rock-solid, rule-based ledger of planetary transits to determine exactly how a human life will unfold.
So, what exactly is this solution? Enter the Ashtaka Varga. Literally translated, Ashta means 8, and Varga means group or division, so it's the group of 8 things. In this system, we're tracking the 7 visible planets, the Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn, plus the ascendant, treating that ascendant almost like an 8th planetary entity. The absolute key here is that Ashtaka Varga is a comprehensive scoring system based entirely on the combined mathematical positions of all 8 of these entities relative to one another. Section 1. Calculating dots and lines, the mathematical ledger. Chapter 66 lays out a mathematical ledger. Honestly, I want you to think of it like a giant cosmic accounting book. Every single time a planet moves or transits through the zodiac, it interacts with the natal positions of those 8 entities we just talked about. Depending on specific geometric distances, a planet will drop either a positive point or a negative point in a specific house. To keep track of this ledger, Sage Parashara uses 2 distinct markers. On one side, we've got the Karana Prada. These are represented as dots, or bindus in Sanskrit. In this specific text, bindus act as malefic significators. They're your negative points, representing friction or sorrow. On the flip side, we have the Rekha Prada. These are represented as lines, or rekas. These are the benefic significators, the positive points, representing harmony, success, and pure happiness. Ultimately, your life's experiences are the net result of these dots and lines.
Let's actually ground this in a real example. This chart from page 847 of the source material tracks the moon's Ashtaka Varga. This specific table maps the Karana Prada. Those unfavorable dots are bindus. When the moon transits across specific houses from the natal positions of the other planets, it produces these dots. The numbers populated in this matrix represent the highly specific placements that trigger a negative score in that cosmic mathematical ledger.
And Sage Parashara gives incredibly precise rules for this. Verses 20 to 22 dictate exactly which placements yield these malefic dots. For instance, if you track the moon's transit, finding 5 planets in the first house, 6 planets in the second house, and all 8 entities in the 12th house will inevitably yield these Karana Prada dots. It's a rigorous, rule-based algorithm. If a planet hits one of these specified spatial relationships, boom, a dot is permanently recorded.
But hey, it's not all negative. Switching our focus over to page 856, we see the exact inverse, the Rekha Prada, or the benefic lines. Verses 46 to 48 detail these positive roles. For example, planets like Jupiter and Mars sitting in the second house from the moon will act as benefic line significators. When the transit aligns with these favorable geometric angles, a rekha is drawn. It's this continuous interplay, this brilliant cosmic mathematics of accumulating rekhas and bindus that forms the structural backbone of the entire predictive system.
Moving on to part 2, drawing the rekha chakra.
So now that we've got the mathematical rules down, how do we actually transition from the theoretical to the practical? How do you visualize this massive amount of data? Well, Parashara instructs the practitioner to draw a rekha chakra. Taking the specific grid from page 870 for the moon's Ashtaka Varga, you'll immediately notice a layout of 1s and 0s across the 12 signs of the zodiac, which are represented by the boxes in this traditional chart format. The 1s represent the rekas, the positive lines. The 0s represent the absence of a line, which means it's a bindu. This grid gives you an immediate visual snapshot of exactly where the moon is strong and supported by other planets, and exactly where it's weak and unsupported. To really drive this point home, take a look at the logical progression here. The raw tabular Rekha Pradata data from the rules directly populates the visual Rekha Chakra chart. The text is telling the practitioner to meticulously calculate the totals for every single sign and then literally draw this chakra. It creates a clear, unmistakable visual guide that totally bypasses the need for any guesswork.
And the process definitely doesn't stop with the moon. Shifting down the same page to the Mars Rekha Chakra, we see that the scoring ledger variations are specifically tailored for the martial planet. Mars has its own totally unique set of astronomical rules for where it receives rekas and bindus from the other 7 entities. The visual layout is identical, sure, but the distribution of those ones and zeros is completely different, perfectly reflecting Mars's specific behavior.
Similarly, right below that, we find the Mercury Rekha Chakra. As we analyze this whole system, I really want you to appreciate the sheer volume of data being processed here. For every single one of the 7 planets, plus the ascendant, a unique rule set is applied, and a unique 12-house chakra is generated. So you end up with 8 separate visual maps detailing the highly specific strengths and weaknesses of every single planetary transit.
Part 3. The Effects of the Ashtaka Varga, straight from Chapter 70.
All right, so once you have all these Rekha chakras drawn up, what do you actually do with them? Well, it's time to decode what these mathematical scores mean for a person's lived experiences. The original Sanskrit text of Chapter 70 outlines that the strength of a planet, determined solely by its Ashtaka Varga score or its total number of rekas, will directly govern specific life domains. The more rekas a planet has in its chakra, the more capable it is of delivering really positive results in its assigned areas of life.
Let's break down those domains using verses 1 through 6. Each planet has very specific matters assigned to it. The sun signifies the soul and the father. The moon governs the mind and the mother. Mars relates to strength and land. Moving down the list, we see Mercury rules business and livelihood. Jupiter is the primary significator for learning, children, and wealth. Venus governs marriage and enjoyments, while Saturn represents longevity, sources of maintenance, and, you guessed it, sorrows. So, for example, if Jupiter's Ashtaka Varga has a high Rekha score in a particular sign, transits through that sign will bring distinct prosperity regarding children and learning. Now, to refine these predictions even further, the text introduces a calculation step called Pinda Sadhana. We won't get bogged down in the deep arithmetic here, but the core concept is pretty fascinating. The raw Rekha scores are rectified, or purified, through a series of mathematical reductions. Then, this rectified number is multiplied by specific Rashi, or sign multipliers, and Graha, or planetary multipliers. All these products are added together to find the Pinda, which is basically a grand planetary index. This Pinda is then utilized to time exact life events, calculating it down to the very month and day an event will actually manifest. Which brings us to Part 4, the Community Ashtaka Varga, from Chapter 72.
This is honestly the most powerful tool in the entire system, the Samudaya Ashtaka Varga, or the aggregational community Ashtaka Varga. If the individual planetary chakras are the specific instruments in an orchestra, this right here is the grand symphony. It is the ultimate synthesis of all the individual data. In Chapter 72, Sage Parashara explains this grand synthesis. You take a blank 12-house birth chart, then you simply insert the grand total of all the rekas from all the individual planets for each specific sign. So you add up the sun's rekas in Aries, the moon's rekas in Aries, Mars's, and so on, and put that grand total right in the Aries box. You repeat this precise calculation for all 12 signs. The resulting numbers give you a definitive map of a person's entire life trajectory, and the rules for assessing this are super straightforward. If a sign has an aggregational score of more than 30 rekas, it yields highly favorable effects. If the score is between 25 and 30, it yields medium, average effects. And crucially, if a sign has less than 25 rekas, it's going to yield adverse, difficult effects when planets eventually transit through it. This mathematical division isn't just theory. It leads directly to practical mitigation measures. The sage explicitly instructs that auspicious functions, like marriage, starting a business, or really any major life event, must only be performed when planets are transiting through those favorable rasis, the signs with more than 30 rekis. Conversely, the adverse rasis with less than 25 rekis must be entirely avoided for new beginnings. This is exactly how ancient Vedic astrology provides actionable guidance to successfully navigate life's challenges. Finally, check out this calculation table at the bottom of page 911. This circles right back and fulfills the very first promise made back in Chapter 66. Remember Maitreya asked for a way to determine longevity? Well, here is the exact mathematical output.
By using the Ashtaka scores and those Pindasarana multipliers we just covered, the system yields a highly specific sum total of longevity. In this example, 66 years, 2 months, 0 days, and 30 Gadikas. Part 5. Summary. Clarity in Kali Yuga. To bring it all together, the Ashtaka Varga Siddhanta is an absolute masterclass in ancient data processing. Sage Parashara recognized the severe limitations of the human mind in the Kali Yuga, but in response, he didn't offer vague philosophies. He offered a rigorous mathematical framework. By tracking the exact geometric relationships of 8 planetary entities, converting them into a binary system of lines and dots, and synthesizing them into the community Ashtaka Varga, he successfully bypassed the bluntness of the modern mind to offer precise, definitive astrological clarity. But it leaves us with a pretty profound question. If our ancient ancestors possessed algorithms this mathematically precise to map human destiny, what other highly advanced systems are hiding in these ancient texts, just waiting to be decoded?
On behalf of the Vedmata AI family, if you found our presentation informative, please share our video as widely as possible so that the authentic knowledge of Indian Vedic texts can reach the masses. Let us all participate in this yagya of knowledge. Har Har Mahadev.